Thursday the 25th of May. We're at All Saints Church in the district of Hessle in Hull. After a fair journeying to get up this way into the Hull and Humberside area and travelling over the Humber Bridge, we finally got here to this church. Sadly we're not able to film inside because there's a funeral service about to start, but obviously Janice was able to get a lot of good still photography that we can explain about on the website as time unfolds, I guess, really. The church itself has been here since the 12th century. The modernisation happened in 1884. You can tell distinctly the medieval portions of the church that are still existing, but you can see also the modernisation that they've done to, especially to the vaulted ceiling. That's relatively modern from 1884. Two particular interesting points in there. The first one is that it's the first church I've seen my family shield boulders brass at lower eyesight level, which is one of the originals, and that looks like it's from about the 13th century. I can't imagine that's anything less than that, or more than that, about 13th century. The other thing to really think about in there, which you've got some stills of, is the wonderful 12th century, so we're looking at 1136 onwards, the wonderful ritual stones with the Aztec symbology on it, and actually the Galic widdershins of Galic, which is how I interpreted that in particular. So we have the welcoming of the Gaelic symbols on the right hand side there. So there's one still to really look at, which shows that this church has got much more going on to it than on the surface meets the eye, really, I guess. Lovely church. We'll head on to our next one. We're at All Saints Church in DRIFFIELD, and what's really nice about this is the church was closed to start with, and I phoned the Reverend, and she was only so happy to come out and see us and let us into the church. We got some great still photography inside. We didn't feel we had the right time to film inside the church, or that it was appropriate today. But this church has been here since about 1298, since the sort of earlier part of the 12th century onwards. It's a fantastic building inside. As always, they're built on previous grounds. There's some particular interest there because you've got the James Clark and William Clark from the Great War, World War I, that's in there as well from my side of the fence. From an architectural point of view, there's the stained glass windows, which again Janice asked me about were they commissioned or were they actually designed by the people that created them. The answer is a bit of both, really. They will be created by the people that made them, but they will present them to the church and say, what do you think of this? So that's quite interesting in its own sense, I suppose. So yes, when you see the church, it's quite a large church, and one can only assume that it should be open all the time. And that's one thing that Jackie was very keen about saying, is that you should have the church open all the time, to be a place of God for everybody at all times of day and night. So that's something that she's working very hard with a new vicar that she's appointed for the area. So between the two of them, they're working very hard to try and start opening the churches 24/7, which is how they should be. You know, it's supposed to be a sanctuary, a place of refuge, and it can't be if the doors are locked and closed with a padlock. So it's something to really think about. And for the homeless in particular, in the old days, they would go to a church to seek refuge and shelter from the rain, the cold and the wind, and now they tend to be in the churchyards because they can't get into the churches. So it does sort of bring a different meaning and understanding to how society's changed, and not always for the better. So this is SKIPSEA Castle, and the earthworks and remains built around about 1066, and that's not strictly true because the mound wasn't built in 1066, the castle was, what used to be on the top there. The problem arises that with the battles that went on, it was demolished and smashed down by William the Conqueror's, because of his niece, and that's where the ghost story comes in. It was William the Conqueror's niece that was said to have been in the castle and hiding a child when the battle began. And basically what happened is she was dragged out of the hidey hole and she was killed quite quickly. Then the child was dragged out of the hidey hole and by his legs was beaten and smashed like a baseball bat against the wall until he died, purely because the smugglers couldn't allow them, or didn't want to take the risk of them seeing what hoards they had. So after that, they basically the smugglers that used this particular piece of land freed the area, knowing that William the Conqueror would not let that ride. They just killed his niece, and so here they would be hunted to death. And then in despair and anger, the entire castle was demolished in one swoop, really. So that was the end of the castle. Now, where the bricks went over the years, who knows? They would be used for different things, I guess, around different areas. But we can see from the mound here that this goes back far beyond the castle of 1066. This goes back much further, to much earlier times. I mean, we're looking at Neolithic periods here. That's what we're talking about. And the people have you believe that this is because of the ice age that came down from the northern hemisphere. It's not strictly true either, as we know. This is purpose-built, purposefully hidden. And one thing that I find rather interesting on the board of the National Trust, or English Heritage, sorry, is that it says that you are not allowed to use metal detectors here. So that says a lot to me as well. If someone says don't do something, then presumably you want to say, well, why? There's clearly a reason why. I bet if we were able to go inside the actual tombs there, we would find some very interesting items and some very interesting things that are now hidden away forever, really. It's a wonderful place, SKIPSEA Castle. We've been over to a lot of places today. We've been to most of the area of Hull, Humberside. We've been over the Humber Bridge. We've been up to the sort of northeastern part of Yorkshire. We didn't go into the Yorkshire Dales, which is a bit more picturesque, but it was, I need to say, for Quest 22, it certainly fulfilled the avenues that needed to be explored.